to our viewers. Welcome to another episode of the Peace Clinic. We are glad that you could join us today. So we appreciate your time, and we are grateful to have you in this conversation. So before we proceed, I want to officially welcome you all to today's episode. We will be looking at quite an interesting topic. We are looking at how natural resources cause conflict in Nigeria and Africa. My name is Janet Michael, the Director of Media and Information, Institute of Global Peace and Conflict Management, and I will be co-anchoring the Peace Clinic with Ambassador Joshua Tahule, the Registrar for Institute of Global Peace and Conflict Management. You're welcome, sir.
Janet, thank you. And to our viewers, we are happy that you can join us again. We appreciate your sacrifice and also the willingness to learn and also contribute to make our society better. Thank you very much. We appreciate you once again.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Joshua. We are glad to have you with us. So once again, we are looking at how natural resources causes conflict in Nigeria and also in Africa. But before we dive into today's discourse, the Peace Clinic is brought to you by the Institute of Global Peace and Conflict Management, and we are an institute that is committed to national and global peace. So once again, thank you for joining us. So looking at today's topic, we can tell that truly, when we talk about natural resources has, God's given resources or God-given gifts to mankind. And as a people, one thing we are grateful for is the natural resources we have. But, natural resources has also posed, to be a challenge to us. And when the natural resources are being mismanaged, they actually lead to conflict. And that is the aspect we'll be looking at today, how natural resources have caused conflict in Nigeria, in Africa. And we are extending this because we are a global institute to the world, but we are using Nigeria and Africa as case studies. So once again, thank you for joining us. So for this topic, we will be looking at the ways by which natural resources, the concept of natural resources, we'll be looking at ways in which natural resources can cause conflicts in Nigeria and Africa. We'll also be looking at the ongoing conflicts in Africa that have natural resources. There are countries in Africa, especially Nigeria, that have been blessed with natural resources. We'll be analyzing that, and we will be looking at the strategies that can be deployed to address these challenges. We will also be looking at specific examples where these strategies have been used to address conflict over natural resources. So just to take, a view of the concept of natural resources, when we're talking about natural resources, what exactly are we talking about? Natural resources are substances or materials that exist in the environment and are considered valuable for human use and consumption. We have two categories of natural resources, and we'll be looking at this. We have the renewable resources. These are the solar energy, the wind energy, the water resources, the forest. These are examples of renewable resources. Then we have the non-renewable resources. These are finite and cannot be readily replaced by human time scale. And the examples include the fossil fuels, the minerals, the uranium, the diamonds. These are examples of non-renewable resources. So as we go in depth into this topic, we will be hearing from Ambassador Joshua what he has to tell us about the concept of natural resources.
Okay, Janet, thank you very much. Natural resources, like you have made mention before, is a God-given resources, and is for the good of mankind, for us to enjoy it. So natural resources are supposed to be a blessing and not a curse. But over time, we discover that what's supposed to be a blessing has constituted, a problem for us as mankind. And why do we call it a problem? Why do we consider it to be a challenge? Because of the way and manner they are handled. And as a result, it affects our existence, and then it affects people. And instead of people to have a good quality of life to live, many are suffering as a result of the mismanagement of these resources. And as a result, we also face conflicts as a result of uh, inequalities arising from the distribution of these resources. But like you have said, these resources, some of them are infinite, while some of them are finite. You know, uh, have a lifespan that they can, be exhausted. So, and you have mentioned some of them, and then those that are exhaustible and those that can be replenished over time. So because they are natural, and of course they have a way of replenishing, but there are some that as we are consuming them, they are depreciating, and over time they are exhausted. Okay, so it's just for us, and that's the reason why I think there's issue of sustainable development, so that resources can be managed sustainably, so that we enjoy it, the future generation also will have a share to enjoy. So I think it's a good topic that we are going to consider today, so that those that are in charge of managing our natural resources, both the government, the private institution that are into exploration, they will know that these resources must be managed adequately, and also there should be a place for conservation for future use. So it's a good topic that we are going to we are looking into today. Thank you.
Interesting. Thank you, Ambassador Joshua Tahule, for that. So just to add to what you have said, and we could have viewers from watching us right now who could be wondering, trying to crack their brains to think of, oh, what are the natural resources we have in of the resources we have around. One of the major natural resources we have in Nigeria and gas, and that can be found deep in the Niger Delta. We also have, coal that can be found in, states like Enugu, Benue, Kogi states. We also have limestone in abundance in states like Ogun State, Cross River, and also Kogi. Now, going beyond the borders of Nigeria, we also have other African countries that are blessed with natural resources. We have Angola, Algeria, and Libya that are actually significant oil producers alongside Nigeria. We also have the natural resource of diamond, which can also be found in that part of Africa. We also have, coffee in Ethiopia. We have rich forestry resources, particularly in the Congo Basin, which is the world's second largest, tropical rainforest. So these are just, a few examples of the natural resources we have in Nigeria and also in Africa. So moving forward, we'll be looking at how these natural resources can cause conflict in Nigeria and also in Africa. And the first we have here is competition for resources. Once again, to our viewers, we appreciate you joining us. We would love to hear from you from the comment section. So kindly reach out to us, tell us what you think about this topic, and your questions. You can present them to us and we will gladly attend to them. So we have number one here is the competition for natural resources. We have natural resources like oil, diamond, gold, fertile land that are scarce and unequally distributed. This causes competition among groups, community, or even countries, and this can lead to conflict. So, Ambassador Joshua, one of the major issue we have about natural resources, which is actually supposed to be a blessing to us as a people, but it's causing conflict. It's in the aspect of competition of resources. Most times, these resources are scarce and they are not enough, and we have people struggling. Everybody's trying to get a part of it, and this can lead to serious conflict. I'll give a major example, the one we have in Nigeria, the oil and gas in the Niger Delta. We have seen, years of conflict, years of problems, of instability, the fight between the indigenous people and the government, and also the multinationals oil companies. We can see, that conflict between this group based on the competition on the resources of oil and gas, and that has in no doubt caused conflict for us as a people, and there's need for us to address that. So we would love to hear from you about this competition for resources when it comes to natural resources and how it causes conflict in Nigeria and Africa.
All right, Janet, thank you very much. Natural resources and the competition over these resources, in no doubt, has causes a lot of conflicts across several countries in Africa. And what is the challenge? The challenge is that everybody want to have a portion and some element of control over these resources, most especially in locations where they don't have anything, and they must have a share of what is available. So they have to force their way in to make sure that they also have something to look onto. And then competition over these resources actually causes a lot of conflicts, even between countries. Okay, let me give one example. Nigeria and Cameroon, the issue of Bakassi Peninsula, that place causes a lot of conflict until this issue was resolved and the Obasanjo administration handed over these resources to Cameroon as a result of the International Court of Justice judgment and declarations. Resources over time causes a lot of problem. Sometimes it's over land, over issues where people say, oh, this piece of land is my piece of land. And then another location also say it's our own piece of land. Our forefathers used to farm here. And as a result, they begin to fight. And just because of one piece of land, the whole community being destroyed, lives being destroyed and all manner of those things. So it has been a lot of problem. And you can agree with me that because of resources, maybe land resources, territorial control is what is also causing conflict between Palestine and Israel. Why? Because Palestine is laying claim of one part of Jerusalem, and Israel is also laying part of the whole of the area. So it's become a serious issue. I get a point now, and that has been the reason why several proposals have been made to resolve the conflict between Palestine and Israel is not working out simply because of who controls Jerusalem. Okay, who controls Jerusalem is what is the problem. Okay, Israel is saying that Jerusalem is part of Israel completely, and they're not going to share it with anybody. Okay, and then Palestine is saying that West Bank is our own part. Okay, the West Bank is our own side. We have control. We have dwelled here for long. We were here even before you came. That's what they're saying. So they are laying claim and they are not willing to give it away. So this issue of control over resources, over land, over territory, over oil in the Niger Delta that you have mentioned, it has causes a lot of conflict and fighting over even community. Apart from the fact that the militant group fight against the government, and also the companies that are exploiting this oil, they still also fight. There's a fight within communities, even in the Niger Delta, over the control of resources. Do you understand? So this is how complex these issues of competition over resources causes conflict in our nation here and across other geographical locations. So, but competition over resources, in no doubt, has led us to a lot of conflicts, and we are still facing some of them even currently, as we discuss now. Thank you.
Interesting. Thank you for that, Ambassador Joshua. So next we'll be looking at the resource extraction and revenue distribution. Extraction of natural resources, as we have seen over the years, it involves a large-scale project and investment by governments or foreign companies. Now we are talking about, on the multinationals. The issues related to resource ownership, control, and revenue distribution can cause tension between various stakeholders, leading to conflict over who benefits from the exploitation of these resources. And truly, we have seen over the years, in places where places that are vastly blessed with natural resources, we have seen this issue of resource extraction and revenue distribution. That is in the case where the indigenous people, those who feel like, okay, these natural resources, directly, are actually found in their land. Take for example, the Niger Delta, like I mentioned earlier, and then we are having the government coming into the picture to extract oil. We have multinational oil companies coming to extract oil, and these people, the indigenous people, feel exploited at the end of the day, because they are being, their natural resources are being taken, and they are not being, given the necessary benefits they should receive from those natural resources. And that is the issue we have. And this has actually caused conflict, in no doubt. The issue of resource extraction and revenue distribution. We see that these revenues gotten from these natural resources are not properly managed, and that has led to conflict. And I think it's something that has to do with the mismanagement of fund, and also corruption, from the governance in power. And this is something we should look into. The various stakeholders should be held responsible for the management and the distribution, that's the evenly distribution of these natural resources. So we would love to hear from you about this resource extraction and revenue distribution.
All right, Janet, thank you very much. The issue of resource extraction and revenue distribution is actually a problem in our land. Even though we have the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission in Nigeria, which is in charge of, allocating revenue as it's supposed to be, based on how they are being mobilized, where those revenues are being mobilized, and how, the kind of percentage it should be shared. Okay, that's good. But over time, we discovered that these percentages that have been using to share these resources have not been enough, most especially to the oil producing communities, who felt that they should be giving up to even 13%. But I think what is given to them currently now, if I'm not mistaken, is about 3%, okay, of what is being extracted. And I think that is not fair when it comes to, and I think this has been the point of argument. So because they are the ones suffering it, they cannot farm, they cannot do anything. You and I, Janet, you can agree with me that we have been passing through Lagos to Port Harcourt for inductions, and we have seen how that environment is nothing. They don't do anything with the land, because the land is totally degraded and affected because of oil activities in that region. So they are saying that what they are giving out as a percentage from what's being extracted in our land is not enough. Do you understand? So we need more of this allocation to us. And then there are also other arguments that we should in fact have a proper control. There should be true federalism. In a situation whereby there's true federalism, state units, that is the federating units, which is what we call the state, have total control over the resources within their region. The only thing they do is that they pay tax or pay a certain percentage to the federal unit, which is the federation. But in our situation here, the federal government has control over certain activities, like the issue of extraction and exploration of refineries or resources in our country. The federal government has exclusive control over such resources, which is not supposed to be so in a true federalism. Okay, and Nigeria is practicing federalism, but the question is that we are not practicing the true federalism, and this has been causing problems, because the Niger Delta people are saying that we should have total control over our resources, and that's how it's supposed to be in a true sense of federalism. Okay, so now, but the federal government of Nigeria we have what we call the exclusive list, and we have what we call the concurrent list, and we have what we call the other list where the local government take charge. Okay, the residual. Okay, this also the exclusive list. The federal government have total control of resources over the exploration and extraction of resources. Okay, federal government has total control over that. And then there are other activities. When we talk about education, they are on a concurrent list where both the federal and the state government are handled. And then come to the issue of security. Also, the federal government has total control. And you can agree with me that people have been agitating for state police, okay, so that they will have some level of security at the state level, and they are able to manage some of the insecurity issues that we are facing in the country. But that has not been done yet. And the issue of allocation of resources and also who controls what also has been another issue, another argument that has been generating conflict over the time. And to a point that Jonathan administration called for the national compact, which is national conference, and they sat and discussed some of these things, but the implementation was not done. And so over time, this has been generating issues. Thank God for Yaradua. When Yaradua came, you noticed that there was so much militia activities or oppression in the Niger Delta. I sat down and said, okay, what can we do to reduce this issue, this conflict in the Niger Delta? And they introduced the what we call amnesty program, which aims to empower the young people, give them scholarship, some went and acquire quality education, and then are doing well now. And then some of them, the like of Asari Dokobo and the rise of Tomporo, they come. Even Tomporo now has become one of the useful instruments in our nation, where government of the federation have even contracted the company he owns, okay, to survey, to make sure that he carries surveillance of the operation of the militia and militant or militia activities in the Niger Delta, to make sure that oil equipments and companies in the Niger Delta, extracting oil are being protected. And his company is doing that. I get a point on protecting pipelines, vandalization, and also all that vandal activities. So the company is taking charge. But these are people that were protesting. Those are the people we mentioned. Government at some point in time was pursuing them to even deal with them. I get a point now, because they felt that they were against the government. No, but they were crumbling for the good of their own people and the region. Okay, so they have to take to arm. Okay, so and cause destabilization in the region. Okay, at that point in time. So this kind of thing, if resource extraction and allocation are not being done the way they are supposed to, it will cause conflict, no doubt. And that's what we have experienced and we are still experiencing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Joshua. I actually love, how you spoke about control, and I, for one, I think that if, let's say, there is even distribution of these revenues that are gotten from these natural resources, then the issue of control would not actually be an issue in the first place. And I believe the reason why, the Niger Delta militants came up and there was conflict and crisis was because of this, the extraction. First and foremost, the extractions were not even done properly. Extracting oil led to oil spillage, glass flaring that polluted the air, and then these people could not use their farm, they could not fish. It was like they were grounded for a very long period of time, and that became an issue, and the agitation rose up. Now let's look at the issue of unemployment. A large number of them were not employed; they were just idle, and that was another reason why the agitation came up. So I believe that if there was no proper resource extraction and equal revenue distribution, the stakeholders involved, the government, the local community, the multinational companies, that come there to extract oil, if the resources and the revenue gotten from that extraction was evenly distributed, and the people, now I'm talking about the local communities, are also beneficiaries of their own natural resources, then I think there wouldn't be conflict in the first place. So before we proceed,
and Janet, it will interest you to know that the people that have the oil, you know that none of them have oil well. Nigeria have what we call oil wells, okay? And these oil wells are located to certain individuals. Do you understand? And it will shock you to know that I don't think anybody in Niger Delta has an oil well. And if they have, maybe they are just maybe one or two or few. Do you understand? Majority of the oil wells are being allocated to people outside the Niger Delta region. So if just let's be sincere to ourselves. If you are in a position to do something and you are in that region now, what will you do? Are you getting the point now? So some of these issues, we are not being conflict sensitive when we take certain steps. when we do certain things, we have to put conflict sensitivity in all of our development plans. What we are doing, will it affect how will the people respond? We should put this kind of questions into perspective. The reaction or the response of the people, will they greet and appreciate us for what we are doing, or will they criticize and revolt what we are doing? Are you get the point now? So if we put some of these things into perspective, we will not be having conflicts when we take development steps.
Oh, thank you, Ambassador, for that. So we'll be moving into the comment section to, to hear from our viewers and what they are saying concerning this topic, how natural resources has caused conflict in Nigeria and Africa. And we have a comment here from Mr. Malta Daniel, and he says, natural resources often play a significant role in fueling conflict in Nigeria and other parts of Africa. The relationship between natural resources and conflict is multifaceted, involving economic, political, social, and environmental dimension. Thank you very much, Mr. Malta Daniel, for that contribution. So we'll be taking another comment from Mr. Sebastian, and he says, virtually every conflict we are experiencing in Nigeria and Africa can be traced down to the issues surrounding natural resources and how they are exploited and distributed. Thank you for that. We'll take the last comment here before we proceed from Mr. Adamu Muhammad, and he says, thank you, sir. This topic is being chosen at the most appropriate time. The entire crisis in the Northwest, the middle belt, and the South-South are purely resource-based than political. Thank you very much, Mr. Adamu Mohammed, for that contribution. So moving forward, we'll be looking at environmental degradation. Environmental degradation, the extraction and exploitation of natural resources can lead to environmental degradation, such as deforestation, pollution of water resources, and loss of biodiversity. And I think that is very true, because when the natural resources are exploited instead of managed, there's a difference between management and exploitation. When they are exploited based on the greed of those involved, there will be a repercussion, and this repercussion can lead to environmental degradation, just like we have seen in the case of the Niger Delta, where the exploitation of the natural resources of oil and gas has actually led to oil spillage, which has, in no doubt destroyed farmland, the waters for fishing, and also polluted the air. So I think this is a major issue, and this was a major reason for conflict in the Niger Delta. Ambassador Joshua, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. The environmental degradation is a problem, Janet. It's actually a problem because our environment is contaminated with activities of exploration. And apart from that, we are in a culture of, falling trees, but we don't plant new ones. Do you understand? We fall trees for maybe fuel consumption, for cooking activities and other developmental activity projects, but we don't replant those trees. We don't carry out what we call afforestation. What we know is deforestation, okay? And in situations where we are not planting, but we are uprooting, then the problem is that over time, the issue of, drought, the issue of heat will be facing. I used to give one example. We're in Jigawa, and because of urbanization, there's one forest that was nearby, in the heart of the town, actually. And then over time, I noticed that they allocated plots of lands to people in that forest, and the forest was wiped out in a blink of an eye. Do you understand? Everything was wiped out, and then I saw people started building houses in that place, and that place was and this is a very excessive heat area. Do you understand? Place like Jigawa, I get a point now. Because of development, forest was wiped out and houses were built. And I was asking, can't you just even leave some trees within the environment so that at least you'll be cooling yourself? They wipe everything out. Do you understand? And then, so if you go to the Niger Delta, You cannot even fetch water there. Like, okay, let's say we take water from the stream and then you drink. It's not possible because it's being contaminated by activities of oil exploration. So oil, spillage has, destroyed the farmlands as well. You cannot even farm anything there. There are few areas that you can do farming activities. Others is completely a waste. Do you understand? So some of these things is very environmental degradation is a problem. It's a problem, and you can even agree with me that in the house where we stay some time ago in Port Harcourt, you discover that there were some black things that were dropping over time. You will not notice, but over time you see on your body or on your shirt some certain black particles on your body. These are as a result of what? Environmental degradation, exploration activities, and they're affecting even the lifespan of the people that are dwelling there. And then these people don't have no quality healthcare system, no quality roads, no quality housing, nothing. So how can they survive this? And this is the reason why people are clamoring and agitating in that area.
I totally agree with you, Ambassador Joshua Tankule, on that. So moving forward, we are looking at corruption and governance challenges. Natural resource wealth can be a double-edged sword, as it can lead to corruption, mismanagement, and weak governance when not properly regulated. The mismanagement of resource revenue can exacerbate existing social and economic inequalities, leading to tension and conflict within the society. And I, for one, think this, is a major issue. The issue of corruption. Corruption has been an issue we have been facing as a nation in Nigeria and also in Africa. And this can be tied to natural resources because the mismanagement of funds. A government who is corrupt, there's no way that there will be proper management of natural resources. And it can also lead to weak governance. So corruption is an issue that if it's not properly managed, when our natural resources are not probably managed, they would actually fall into the hands of corrupt officials who would exploit it, as we have been saying, and then use it otherwise.
Yes, Janet. Corruption and governance challenges is a problem. Now, like I said, you see, in the Niger Delta, the oil is being produced, and that is the mainstream income of this country, of this nation. And if you go to that place now, every year they suffer flooding. Every year they suffer flooding. Go and see some of the roads there. They are not motorable at all. The other time we were traveling to Lagos, where did we pass? Where is supposed to be main road, we enter into a certain community, pass through villages. That is putting our lives at risk. Okay, we enter through villages, assuming that we encounter any of those bad guys and say, stop, no movement. We cannot even do anything. Do you understand? The roads were not motorable at all. And even today, as I'm talking to you now, some of those roads are not motorable. Roads are built in roads. This is where oil is being produced. This is where the money of the nation, the wealth of the nation is coming from. And then some of the roads that have been constructed, they don't have any plan inside for any disaster control. No form of disaster control at all. You see roads built without proper drainages, no proper covers for water channels to flow. Nothing like that. How can you, in a zone whereby money of the nation is coming from, is not having good roads, is not having good facilities? Do you understand? And what is causing this is corruption. Does it mean that there's no money coming? There's money. Where is the money going? That's the question we are asking ourselves. Okay? And then when we don't have the answers, we say it's corruption because we believe that someone might have taken the money, because government will tell us how many billions that have been, generated from the activities of exploration. But where is the money going? That's where we're asking. You and I are asking, because we are not living the lives that we're supposed to live as people that are producing oil. I get the point now. during the time of the former president of Libya, or Gaddafi, they were producing Libya as one of the major oil producers. The people of Libya, they were living a good life until Gaddafi, they gave Gaddafi up. And what happened? Now they are suffering as well. I get a point now. Okay, so this is the issue. Corruption and bad governance. Okay, money is here. You put money into development. They are budgeted 10 billion for a particular road, maybe say 20 kilometers. Okay, they will use 1 billion and construct the road. And just 1 week or 6 months, that road is washed away. So what's the meaning of that? So this thing has not been helping us as a people. You understand? And then apart from that, during the Goodluck administration, and this is one of the reasons why Sanusi was removed as the central bank governor. Okay, he alleged that over $2 billion or so, or $20 billion, yeah, have not been remitted. Okay, the NNPC has not remitted over about $20 billion. You can remember 20 billion. I'm not 20 billion is not an error. $20 billion not remitted. And what happened? He was removed as central bank governor. So what's the meaning of that? It tells you clearly that there's corruption in place. Sanusi was not an ordinary person. He's a central bank governor. He was the central bank governor. And he said it that about $20 billion not remitted. And then it was a reason why he will go. I get a point now. So these are the issues we are talking about here. So it has been with us. The money is coming, but where is the money going? We're not seeing it. And even when they say we put it into project, it's substandard project. Bad governance. So it has been a problem. And this thing is creating inequality, is creating unemployment, and then is causing tension in the community, in the society.
It's actually quite unfortunate, and I think that the government should be held accountable for resources. When there is accountability in place, they should be able to give the reasons, the revenue gotten from these natural resources, how these revenues are being spent, and what they are used for. So moving forward, to our viewers, we appreciate your presence. We thank you for your contribution and your comments. For the rest of you who are yet to join this conversation, we are very interested in what you have to say about this topic. We are looking at how natural resources has caused conflict in Nigeria and also in Africa. So we would love to hear from you. So moving forward, we'll be looking at ethnic and identity-based conflict. The control and ownership of natural resources can be linked to ethnic or identity-based divisions within a country when particular ethnic groups are associated with resource-rich areas or have historically benefited from resource exploitation. Conflicts can arise between different ethnic or identity groups seeking to control these resources. And I think we can clearly see that in our nation, Nigeria, where some certain people feel like, this resources is being owned by their ethnic group, identity-based conflict. Oh, it is my ethnicity that is reaching, so these natural resources are not yours. And some other people feel, my ethnicity are the ones that have this and not yours. So this has actually caused conflict in our nation.
Yes, that has been a problem. But thank God, there are certain resources that state governments are allowed to control, like the Land Use Act in Nigeria. Okay, is one of those that empowered state government to have control over lands, and then also, and as a result, the river lines. Okay, so but over time we have been hearing of bees trying to the federal government trying to take over the river banks and all of that to be part of the federal government control and all of that. And some of these things have been causing tension and agitation among different groups. And then there are also different groups that felt that, Nigeria belongs to everybody, so nobody owns anything. Okay, so we can be anywhere and do whatever we want to do whatever business we want to do. That's fine. Nigeria is all our country, and we have this belief that government owns every land. Okay, but thankfully, as a federal institution or as a federating unit, we have uh, federating units which are states, and they have been given the power to control certain resources, and these states take measures to make sure that they have control over some of these resources. But we have been seeing issue of herders farmers crashes around the country, and you wonder why the crashes, because the farmers have their land, they farm on them, the herders also have to feed their animals, and maybe in the course of maybe trying to pass by, animals stray into the farmland, eat what it's not supposed to eat, and then this becomes a problem, and then it has been causing problem over issues of ownership, control of land, control of water riverines areas, and all of those things have been causing problem in our nation. So, but and some of these things is as if they have identity base, you know, associated with it. Okay, just like you have said, some people have taken upon them that okay, we own this, so we should use it. Okay, let me give you one example now. Do you know that there's diamond being extracted in the state of Zamfara state? The question is government aware of this extraction? Is it government that is responsible for this extraction? Are you getting the point now? So question that other regions will be asking is why is that our oil is being extracted by the government, but the diamond in the north is not being extracted by the government? And that's what is that the conflict that is going on in Zamfara state currently now is as a result of the extraction of diamond. And who is in control? Everybody wants to control. Certain group want to control. Certain elements in government also want to have control. Do you understand? And when this is not being possible, do you understand? Certain, even the militant also have control over certain areas so that they continue to sponsor their activities. They extract the diamond, sell it, sponsor some of the activities. So this is what is happening here. So it's as if some of these resources have a ethnic correlation and then identity base.
Thank you, Ambassador Joshua, for that. We'll be looking at the comment section and we'll be seeing what Mr. Popular Ezekiel has to say. He says, this is causing problem in our nation. True federalism is the solution. Every region should be allowed to manage their natural resources and pay tax to the center. This will allow the region not to rely. I believe he wanted to say rely on federal government. Ambassador Joshua, what can you say to this government?
Yes, we are true federalism works. That's how it's supposed to be. The federal government has no control of anything. They're supposed to allow the regions or the states to have total control of what is coming out of their own region or the state. Do you understand? So by so doing, they give certain percentage to the federal units, which now take care of its responsibility as a federal government. But in our own situation, the reverse is the case. The federal government take over some of these resources, and there are annoying aspect of it that we don't know where it is going. Okay, we don't know where the money is going, and even the region themselves are also suffering. But also the annoying aspect of it all again is that when little of this money is given to even this region again, we don't even know where it goes. Okay, to a point, the government say, okay, let's establish NDDC, the Niger Data Development Commission. What is that commission doing, if you may ask? Money is going there, right? We have been hearing cases of corruption in that commission. Crisis. Okay, so what's the problem? The issue of corruption still come into play. You are saying that they are not giving you enough. So the little they are giving you, how judicious have you used it? That's the question. Do you understand? So this is the issue. So it's what it seems to me here is that, Janet, it means that even if we give them total control over these resources, they will still end up fighting one another over the resources, and then maybe they will even not be using it, they will not be exploiting it again. So when we look at it and say it's even better that federal government should still continue to control it, because give them control over it, they will end up killing themselves. At the end of the day, they will suspend the exploration of the oil, and nothing will be going on in that region. Nobody will go and exploit, because if you come, they will kill you. Do you understand? So it's affects development as a whole. So what this man is saying is that what we need is true federalism. Or if not, if this agitation, because so far as money issue is concerned, no matter amount you give to this region, they will still say that it's not enough. They want to have total control of their resources. Do you understand? So that they can see how they will manage it by themselves. Yes, but the good news is that all the regions, all the states have one or two things that can, give them ability to stand on their own if they can manage it well. The question is how effective to manage this is the challenge. So, but what Mr. Olufemi has said is what we are also talking about. True federalism is what we need here. But so far, so good, we don't have it. But what we have, how adequately are we managing it? That's the question.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Joshua, for that reply, and thank you, Mr. Ezekiel Olufemi, for that. So as we proceed, we'll be looking at the conflict in Africa. The conflict in Africa that have natural resource dimension. That's to say the ongoing conflict in Africa that have natural resource dimension. And the first we'll be looking at is the Democratic Republic of Congo. The Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo has been plagued by conflict driven by competition over the region's rich mineral resources, including gold, diamond, coltan, and others. Armed groups and militants have exploited these resources to finance their activities, leading to violence, displacement, and human rights abuses. The conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo, is complex, involving multiple actors and contributing to regional instability. So this is an example of an ongoing conflict in Africa, and this is at the Democratic Republic of Congo. And I think that this conflict concerning natural resources should be addressed. Ambassador Joshua, what's you?
Yes, the Democratic Republic of Congo is also an epic center for conflicts, and the conflict is used by natural resources control issues. Okay, there's competition, and I can tell you that they have several group of militants or militia activities going on in that place. So many groups, the FRC, the Jadash or Kadash or whatever. There are so many of them. Okay, the allied democratic groups, they are all there, and they are fighting for the control of the resources of the region. Are you going on? So, and they are extracting these resources to sponsor their activities. Okay, so you see somebody will just mobilize a group and begin to do all manner of activities just to have access to certain resources, and then they start extracting them to sponsor their activities illegally. And that's what is causing conflict in that country. And no matter the level government is trying to control it, they are resisting it, because they fear that maybe if it's in the hand of government may not give them what they want. So it's better they should take it. But I can tell you that they are also suffering. because the people doing these things are in the bush. They are also enjoying the money as they should. Okay, just that few individuals who call themselves the leaders of the groups are the ones enjoying it, and then they mobilize people, empower them, give them guns, go and fight, and then give them peanuts, and they are staying in the bush. Okay, they are not also enjoying the money as they should. So it's not proper. And this thing is, you talk about the Democratic Republic of Congo. No, the one thing that you talk about without talking about that country is conflict. Conflict is ongoing always in that place, and it's over natural resource control. So natural resources are a blessing, not a curse. And if we can just allow government to, extract them and then carry out developmental project that will benefit all of us, empower young people, create jobs, and then I think we'll live and enjoy these resources better. But the way it is going now, it's like we say, oh, and but the challenge now is that the government itself is not responsible. That's the problem. So okay, let's hand it to the government. Government extract this thing and give us the development we need. They extract it, certain individual, you know, divert it, and then what happened? The other people begin to suffer. So it's as if government has been tested, but they could not be trusted. I get the point now. So as a result, people say, okay, let's take our destiny into our hands. Let's also have a portion and control of this national care. And this is what is going on.
Thank you, Ambassador Joshua. We're looking at the comment section right away. We have a comment here from Otovim and Roni. And he says natural resources has caused so much trouble in Africa. Take the DRC, for example. All the different factions and war in that country has ever known was caused by natural resources. And as at now, the war hasn't ended. The Nigeria Civil War was also a case for the control of natural resources. And unfortunately, the soldiers are never told the truth while they are fighting in any war.
Prof, that is correct. You know, um, it is very, very pathetic that these things happens, but it's happening everywhere, and in our nation, it's happening. In other places, it's happening. Other places have taken steps to resolve some of these issues. I get them point now. And the DR Congo also just needs to um, do something. We need to produce leaders that can say, well, enough of these things, enough of the corruption. Let's do something. Let's do something to benefit our people. So, and then one person should just rise to the occasion and say that, okay, I am going into this government and give me the opportunity to govern you people. And I'm sure that all your grievances will be handled. I will take charge, and then the person will take charge. Take charge and make sure that resources are equally and equitably distributed. Make sure that people benefit from their resources that God has endowed them with. I get a point now. By so doing, we will not be having conflict. If government extracts, create jobs, and young people are empowered and employed, who will have time to go and fight over what? Government is doing its job. They have given me a job. Let me also do my own to contribute to the progress of my country. So nobody will have time to go and fight, but they are fighting. There's no peace. There's no development. There's no even standard of living, quality lives, nothing. The people are suffering. I'm telling you, the Sahel level is one of the poorest countries in Africa. It's rich in resources, but poor in the quality of life that they are living. They are Congo. It's one of them. They are sent in Nigeria here. Rich in oil production, but the quality of life of the people is poor.
Interesting. As we proceed, we'll be taking another case study on the ongoing conflict in Africa that has natural resource dimension, and we'll be looking at the Niger Delta, Nigeria. The Niger Delta region in Nigeria continues to experience conflict related to oil exploitation and environmental degradation. Issues such as pollution, oil spill, land disputes, and inadequate benefit sharing have fueled tension between communities. Oil communities and the government, the militant group, and the criminal organizations have been active in the region, leading to insecurity and instability. The Niger Delta, for one, has been a case study in Nigeria about the ongoing that the conflicts natural resources can cause. And over the years, we have seen, the issue of exploitation, environmental degradation, and issues, relating to oil spill and land disputes and the inadequate benefit sharing, like we have mentioned earlier. And I think it's right time for that conflict to come to an end. There should be even distribution of the revenues that are being gotten, and the local people, the indigenous people, should also be, beneficiaries of this revenue.
Yes, we have been talking about Niger Delta. We have been saying it, and we have also witnessed it. What has happened? Okay. The issue is, if we have decided to go on the path of true federalism, then we should try to do what true federalism stands for. And if we are saying that, well, let's continue to handle these resources, then let the benefits that is due to the community be, graciously be given to them. If the community says that, okay, the percentage you are giving us from the extraction of these resources is not enough, increase it. And actually, the truth of the matter is that it's not enough. So they should be given that opportunity to have a good percentage from the extraction. But apart from that, the percentage you have, this is my worry. Do you understand? And this is the problem. The little percentage you have, how judiciously have you used it? And you know what? Maybe the more money they will have, the more trouble they will get. Yes, now. So the more money, because one, they are not applying these resources the way they should be applied. Individual pocket more than is going to the community. So what do you expect? Protest and conflict.
Interesting. Thank you, Ambassador Joshua. So when it comes to the Niger Delta and the ongoing conflict in that region, we can actually see key issues. And one of the issues there is the environmental degradation, like we have mentioned. We have issues of the oil spillage, which has contaminated, water sources and farmland, destroying the livelihood of farming and fishing communities, and also the gas flaring, which has led to air pollution, causing health problems for both the local residents. We also have the issues of economic disparities, where despite the immense wealth that's generated from the oil, because the oil seems to be the central focus, for the nation Nigeria. The Niger Delta, though they are the first-hand producers of that oil, they are actually underdeveloped with poor infrastructures, limited access to education, healthcare, and also high level of unemployment. We also have, the issues of social and political marginalization. And I think, for one, that this is actually what led to the agitation of the militants rising up, because these people felt marginalized both politically and also socially. They felt excluded from the decision-making processes regarding the exploitation of their natural resources. And there's also the perception and the belief that the oil extraction are being enjoyed by the central government and the multinational oil companies, rather the local people themselves. So these oils are being exploited, and they are not even, the first-hand beneficiaries of these resources. The government, and I know their major target when the agitation began was actually the government and the multinationals company, where the workers were being kidnapped, you know, vandalization of the oil pipelines and other mediums of, you know, expressing their agitation. So I think, for one, that the Niger Delta issue is such that, although, just like you said earlier, the federal government gave amnesty, but I think more should be done. You know, these people should actually benefit more. The issue of underdevelopment and the lack of infrastructure should also be addressed. So as we proceed, we'll be looking at Sudan and South Sudan. This is also another country that has, you know, been experiencing conflict based on natural resources. And the conflict over oil resource, particularly during the secession of the South Sudan in 2011. Disputes over oil revenues, pipeline access, and border areas have led to clashes and tensions between the two nations, that is the Sudan and the South Sudan. In the South Sudan, internal conflicts over oil wealth and power sharing arrangements have also contributed to instability. Because of time, I'll just quickly go through them so we can progress. Another country we have is the Central African Republic, which has been faced with conflicts fueled by competition over natural resources, including diamonds, gold, timber, and we also see, you know, the armed group and the militants who have also exploited these resources to fund their activity, leading to violence, displacement, and humanitarian crisis. We also have Somalia. Somalia has experienced conflicts over natural resources, including disputes over land, water, and access to grazing area. The country's long-standing conflict has been exacerbated by competition over resources, you know, clan rivalries, and the presence of armed groups. Issues related to resource management, environmental degradation, and climate change have also contributed to conflict dynamics in Somalia. So, Ambassador Joshua, what can you say about, you know, the ongoing conflict in Africa and also in, you know, other parts of the world?
Janet, thank you. Some of these conflicts that we have mentioned that are ongoing right now in these countries that we have mentioned. In fact, the Niger Delta one has even reduced. Do you understand? But I can tell you for sure that the one in Sudan and even the South Sudan is still a very terrible situation. Even though the NGO, the international organizations are making, you know, desperate effort to make sure that the conflicts they are reduced. I think we have one of our members who is also working in that region in South Sudan, right as I speak with you now, and they have been, you know, trying to put in effort to make sure that conflict there has reduced. They have oil, but they're also suffering, and majorly on the issue of control. Who controls what? Even on the power allocations, okay, the president and the vice always fighting and all of that. I think it has been a problem. And even the Sudan also, the two captains that are fighting, the two generals that are fighting in Sudan now, is also another problem. Part of the issue is the resource control. Do you understand? So who controls what? The Central African Republic is also another a terrible situation. Talk about Somalia. Somalia has been known in history. For us, we grow up to know that Somalia is a deadly area. Crisis here and there. Do you understand? Armed groups everywhere fighting. They fight, and to a point they fight every kind of war, resources, religious, and all manner of crisis is going on in Somalia. So we know Somalia as an epic center for conflict. Okay, so that even government officials sometimes have been killed. Do you understand? So it's a problem. We are having this kind of conflict going on in Africa, but like we have said, natural resources are a blessing to humanity. They shouldn't be a curse. But the issue is that if you are in a position to manage these resources, you should be able to be held accountable for the management of these resources. Where you cannot give accountability of what was placed in your care, this is where the problem is. Somebody going to that place suddenly becomes so rich that it's out of control. Where do you get the resources? Where do you get the money that suddenly you have become so rich? Inequalities. There is a certain group of people receive more than others. In our nation, Nigeria, for instance, now, it's as if it's only the people that are elected or they are in government that have opportunity to enjoy a good life. Others, no. Even civil service to increase uh, their salaries is a problem. It has been tug of war since. But this we are producing oil, so we cannot increase. Okay, people are buying fuel. The fuel that we are producing now in our country, we are buying fuel. How much a liter? And then when you talk, somebody will give you one comparison that is not supposed to be. Someone is telling me that they are buying fuel in Saudi Arabia and $2, $5. Somebody is telling me that they are buying fuel in America, $2, $5. Am I in America? So what kind of comparison is that? I'm in Nigeria. Talk in naira. Don't talk in dollars. Do you understand? They are earning in dollars. So if we must compare it, take it that $5 there should be 5 naira here. Is it not how it's supposed to be? So I should be buying a liter of fuel 5 naira. Do you understand? I shouldn't be buying a liter of fuel for crying out loud. And then you are telling me that they're buying fuel in America $5. What is the meaning of that? Am I in America? Tell me that I'm buying fuel in Nigeria for 5 naira per liter. Hey, I will know that yes, you are making the right comparison. But in our country now, we don't even have 5 naira cannot even buy sweet. Do you understand? So this is the issue. So if you are in a position to manage these resources, if you are elected president of the country, you are a minister over what? You are a commissioner over what? Or you are a director over what? Please direct things appropriately. Govern well. That's all we want. And let's receive the benefits of these resources that we have.
I totally agree with you on that, Ambassador Joshua. So before we proceed, let's take a comment from Mr. Sebastian Maria Zande, and he says, talking about environmental degradation, won't it be right if environmentalists are brought in to look at how exploration and man-made activities not only affect us health-wise, but also create tension, conflict, and division? In a nutshell, how do we collaborate with them? And I think, based on the ongoing conflicts we have seen, in several nations in Africa, environmental degradation is actually, one of the repercussions or one of the effects of the mismanagement of natural resources. And I totally agree with Sebastian Maria, and he says, where he says that we should collaborate with environmentalists, because most people do not actually have an idea of the damage they are causing to the environment when these natural resources are mismanaged or exploited. And so it is necessary that we collaborate with the environmentalists so that we will understand, in better terms or in better language, how this can, how man-made activities can affect us as a people.
Yes, we have had some of them that are being involved. Some of them that are into this exploration, they are environmentalists, they are specialists in that regard. Even some of the international companies that are operating there, some of their officials are those that have training in environmental issues. So, well, the issue is that we're talking about the issue of climate change, also, which is also one of the problems, right? So the issue of uh, environmental degradation and all of that, climate change are also the issue. But during the Buhari administration, they made effort to also clean up the Niger Delta, right? So I think that's the reason all those specialists were brought in to say that okay, the environment is being cleaned. You understand? So I believe there are efforts in place to do that, but it will be much more better if we also, expand the level of collaboration, and then from maybe some in those areas where we are making new discoveries, Better planning and strategies should be put in place so that we will not need to go and clean the environment again. Okay, it should be done neatly and clean so that people will enjoy their lives. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ambassador Joshua, and thank you, Mr. Sebastian, for that contribution. So we have actually looked at the ongoing conflicts in the African nations concerning issues on natural resources and the conflict involved. We will be looking at the strategies, the ways in which these conflicts can be resolved. And the first we are starting with is transparency and accountability. This is a strategy that we can employ to address the challenges of environmental degradation and the repercussions of natural resource mismanagement. The implementation of transparent and accountable governance mechanisms for the extraction and management of natural resources. This includes ensuring that revenues are properly accounted for and that the benefits are equitably shared among all stakeholders, including local communities. And we have spoken about this earlier, that there should be even distribution of the revenues being gotten from these natural resources, especially the local communities. In the case of the Niger Delta, they should not be left out, they should not be marginalized. And the management of these resources is actually, paramount. Those responsible or those in charge should be held accountable, and there should be transparency how these revenues are being managed and the likes of them. So we are moving on to the conflict prevention and resolution. There's need to establish conflict prevention and resolution mechanism that brings together key stakeholders such as the government, local communities, industry representatives, and civil society organizations to dialogue and to mediate and also to negotiate on how to address grievances and prevent conflict from escalating. And Ambassador Joshua, I think this is, one of the major reasons why the agitation of the Niger Delta militants actually escalated, because there was there was no plan to manage the conflict and also to arrive at a resolution soon, and that actually led to the escalation of things. So there's need for the key stakeholders involved, the federal government, the local communities, the multinationals, and every other person involved, every other representative, to sit down to dialogue and also to arrive at a negotiation on how the natural resources should be managed, and if peradventure a conflict occurs, how that conflict can be resolved at the end of the day.
Yeah, you are right, Janet. The issue here is that we are fond of carrying out development activities without including or carrying out some aspect of conflict or anticipation. We have to anticipate conflict in every of the development activities we are embarking upon. You understand? That's what we call conflict sensitivity. Okay, because you may start a project, it is good, but it will surprise you when conflicts arise, and then there's no plan for it. So how will you resolve it? You cannot be able to resolve it. And sometimes not that these things are not on ground though. Sometimes these plans are even there, but the implementation is a problem. They lack the political will to carry out the implementation. Or sometimes resources are being allocated, but certain individuals just sit on it and then forget about it. So even people die, there's no problem. They don't care. Do you understand? So this is where the problem is. And that's why we are talking about the issue of, sometimes me, I'm talking like this, but but what is put in place for them to implement it is a problem. Do you understand? So, and then another issue is the issue of capacity building. We need to build people to have the capacity to be able to handle certain issues. So that is another issue.
Interesting, and I believe that, and that is why we have institutes like the Institute of Global Peace and Conflict Management. We are going out of the way to empower people to make certified negotiators and mediators, those who can mediate in a situation of conflict and who will be in the forefront of conflict prevention and conflict resolution. So the next we are looking at is community engagement and empowerment. There is need for local communities to be involved in decision-making processes related to natural resource management. Communities should be empowered to participate in the planning and implementation and also the monitoring of resource extraction projects to ensure that their voices are heard and their interests are protected. There's need for the people to be carried along so that they will not feel neglected at the end of the day. The community should be engaged, and not just to engage them, but they should be empowered in the long run. There shouldn't be issues of employment, of lack of infrastructures and the likes of them. For the community people, they should be the first-hand beneficiaries of these natural resources. So as we proceed, we are also looking at environmental protection. We are looking at capacity building, just like Ambassador Joshua has actually spoken on, and we're also looking at the legislation and regulation. There's a need for the enactment and enforcement of laws and regulations that govern the extraction, the distribution, and the use of natural resources, and to ensure that these laws are transparent, they are fair, they are inclusive, and that they promote sustainable development and equitable benefit sharing. So Ambassador Joshua, can you wrap up on the strategies that can be employed to address this challenge of natural resource conflict?
And Janet, thank you so much. Addressing these issues shouldn't be a problem. Okay, everybody wants to have a sense of belonging. You come to my community, you are extracting resources in my community, I should be carried along. I should be given a place to have contribution. I should be given a place to, contribute in one way or the other in decision making, in participation in the exploration, even the employment of our young people in that community. So we're talking about community engagement. Any exploration activities that will not engage the community, who are the custodian of the resources where you are exploring, it's not going to work out. And one of the major reasons that causes conflict in the Niger Delta was because the people were not carried along. Government felt that we have control over natural resources, it's our right to come and do our extraction and then go. No, it doesn't work like that. They are the custodian. If they don't want you, it doesn't matter the battalion of armies and soldiers you carry and go to that community. If they don't want it to happen, it will still not happen. They will distract you, they will destroy everything. Do you understand? The federal government has control over the military, the police, the civil defense, all the arms of the armed forces. Government has control, the federal government has control over. But they have been finding it difficult to protect the assets of the NNPC in the Niger Delta. They have not been, even the private companies that are operating there, they are not protecting them. They have been several times, the white people have been kidnapped. Do you understand? This part operating in that region have been kidnapped severally. That's to tell you the power of the community. So they must be engaged. They must be carried along. They must be given an opportunity to participate in the decision making so far as the resources in their region is concerned. And by so doing, let me tell you that there's no policy that can successfully be implemented when the people who the policy is meant for are not being carried along. You can only participate in the implementation of a policy of which you participated in its formulation. So if you are not being carried along, I'm telling you that they are a stakeholder the community is a stakeholder, so they must be given opportunity to participate. And in project management, for instance, now, like what we're made to understand is that once you neglect one stakeholder, time will come that that stakeholder will be a stumbling block in that project. They will rise up and say, I was not included, so you do it. And maybe the stakeholder is the one that's supposed to carry it. He will say, I was not included from the beginning, so I'm not part of it. And then the project will be frustrated. Do you understand? So, and that's why all stakeholders must be included, including the community. They are also part of the stakeholders that we're talking about. They should be given opportunity to contribute in the decision making of what is affecting them, because you, as you are carrying out these activities affecting them, and some of these crises can easily be resolved. Like even in other countries that we have talked about, we have different groups, and these different groups have leaders. Okay, mobilize them, and then have a discussion with them. How can we go about exploiting these resources that in such a way that it will benefit our people and will not be fighting? So engage all of them, give them responsibilities. Do you understand? Give them responsibilities and let them work together as a team for the exploration, the distribution of these resources, so that everybody will have representation. And then they will know that, okay, this is what is going to my community. This is what's going to my people. But some of these things, sometimes people are not suffering. People are not fighting for their community. They are fighting for their own interests. What would I get? Do you understand? So most of the time when people carry arms and begin to fight, that, oh, it's for the interest of the people. It's not the interest of the people. Sometimes for their own interests. Once they are settled, you'll not hear them fighting again. Are you hearing some of these people fighting? Some of them that were initially involved in some of this fight. Are you hearing them making noise again? Some of them are even working with the government now because they have a share now. Do you understand? So that's what it means. So, but you can bring them together, discuss on how effective we can manage these resources, and that will be fine. So I think that's the best way you can be able to resolve. If people are fighting, they are not hidden. They know the government know them, the community will know them, so they should call them. Come, let's discuss how effectively can we manage these resources that you will not feel cheated and you will be fighting. So this is the issue.
Thank you, Ambassador Joshua. I totally agree with you. Before we move forward to look at the strategies, the practical strategies implementation, and how successful they have been, we'll be looking at the comment section and we'll be taking a few of the comments from our viewers. So we have a comment here from Mr. Oyeka. He says, we need action in this country and not theory. The masses should speak up and uplift themselves in what is going on in their society, and not leave to leave everything in the hands of the politicians. Thank you, Mr. Oyeka, for that contribution. We also have another from Sebastian. He says, let's not forget patriotism when talking about transparency, accountability, and conflict prevention. And in the face of conflict and crisis, let's not underestimate the power and position of mediation and negotiation. Thank you for that, Mr. Sebastian. Before we proceed, we have a question here from Mr. Jeremiah Peters, and he says, natural resources can spark conflict and hinder peace when governments and other parties prioritize their own interests. Greed often becomes the root cause of disputes, leading to intense rivalries and prolonged unrest. How can we address this issue to promote the fair resource distribution and lasting peace? Do you agree?
Yes, we agree with you, Mr. Peter, completely. And another issue is that, like I kept saying, by the time we do away with greed, by the time we do away with selfish ambitions over the collective interests of the community or of the people, then we'll begin to be fair in our, in our actions. But now that we are so engrossed in pursuing what we are interested in, to satisfy our self, gratifications, then I am telling you that It's going to take a while until we ourselves and sit and say, okay, this thing that I'm going to do it for the sake of my people. I'm not particularly interested in anything, but I know for sure that as I'm fighting for my people, I will also receive my own benefit. But it shouldn't be that my own benefit will supersede every other benefit. No, it should be for the collective benefit of the people. And then once that is done, what is due for you also, you also receive it. But the problem is that we want to receive everything. Okay, government say, okay, take 3% for your region and carry out development activities. And then individuals who maybe are in the privilege to be in position now say, okay, this 3%, let's take 2% for ourselves. Okay, for ourselves, let's take 2%. Let's give the community and the region 1%. Do you understand? And this is what has been playing out. So by the time we give up our selfish ambition and advance the collective ambition of the whole community, then it will be better for us. And I believe that by so doing, nobody will be protesting, nobody will go out to go and fight. We are fighting, but the truth of the matter is that our children, they are in one position or the other to have a control, to have a say. Are they saying something? Why are they quiet? Are you telling me that there are no people in the Niger Delta who have opportunity to be where certain decisions are made concerning the oil exploration and extraction in their region? They have. Are they saying something? No. Why are they not saying anything? Because maybe their hands are not clean. I think there's there's a certain time there was Senate House Committee or on something in the Niger Delta NDDC. I think one prof was misbehaving there. I hope some of us remember the incident. Okay, they asked him question he could not answer, and then he began to behave as if he fainted. I get a point now. So these are the issue, because the hands are not clean. We have governors who are individuals representing their states. What is given to them? How judicious have they used it? So this is the issue. Because they are refusing to use it judiciously, they are creating inequality in economic inequalities. And so people go into kidnapping, go into criminal activities, go into destruction, and just because they want to, some will go and even steal transformers because they want to meet up. Do you understand? Transformer cables are being stolen. And these are the things that have been done to benefit the community, but people are stealing. Why? They will have to meet up because they have not been given opportunity where they're supposed to. So this is the issue. So I agree with you, Mr. Peters, and they also, I feel that greed is one of the reasons why some of these things are going on. And if we do away with greed and put the money where it's supposed to be, then we will not have problem.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Joshua, for that. And also thank you, Mr. Jeremiah Peters, and all those who contributed. And now we'll be looking at specific examples where these strategies we have mentioned have been used to address conflict over natural resources. And we have Namibia, community-based natural resources and management. In Namibia, the government has implemented community-based natural resource management, which is the CBNRM, and the program empowers local communities to manage and benefit from wildlife and other natural resources on their land. And this has helped, to make the communities actively involved in conservation efforts, leading to reduced conflict over resources and increased economic opportunities. We also have Rwanda and the sustainable land use practice. The government has promoted sustainable land use practice to address conflict over land and natural resources, particularly in densely populated areas. We have the initiative of the land husbandry, water harvesting, and hillside irrigation, the LWHI, which helps which helps to improve the oil conservation, water management, and agricultural productivity. Productivity. Another example we have is Mozambique, where we have the forest reservation and conflict resolution. The government has worked with local communities and NGOs to establish community-managed forest reserve, such as in the Niassa Special Reserve. So these are examples, of the strategies that have been used. The reserve has helped protect biodiversity, support ecotourism, and ensure the long-term conservation of valuable natural resources. And lastly, we'll be looking at South Africa, the environmental justice and mining. In South Africa, efforts have been made to address conflict over mining and environmental justice, particularly in communities affected by mining activity. These include initiatives such as the Benchmark Foundation, which advocates for the rights of community impacted by mining corporation. So these are examples of practical examples of the strategies that have been used to help manage crisis and conflict when it comes to natural resources. So as we conclude, by implementing those strategies in a coordinated and sustainable manner, it is possible to address the conflicts and problems caused by natural resources in Nigeria and also in other African countries. This will help promote peace, stability, and sustainable development in resource-rich region. As we have said earlier when we started, we said natural resources should be a source of blessing for us as a people and should not be the source of conflict and disaster. So there's need for these natural resources to be managed properly. There's need for accountability, and there's need for involvement. The people in question should be involved in any decision that affects the use and the exploration of these natural resources. This will help us to avoid conflict and also will help us create a more peaceful and more sustainable society. So Ambassador Joshua, as we conclude, over to you to conclude on this issue of how natural resources can cause conflict in Nigeria and Africa, and also how this conflict can be effectively resolved.
All right, Chine, thank you very much. The truth of the matter is that the countries that you have mentioned in Namibia, Mozambique, in South Africa, and in which country again? They have been enjoying peace, right? You can agree with me that those countries experience relative peace. Do you understand? Or compared to other countries where we have refused to sit down and look at our problem and proffer, solutions. And even when we sit down to look at these problems, we are not so sincere. Those countries that have exercised some level of sincerity in dealing with their people, they are enjoying peace. They were once in difficult situations, but they took steps to make sure that the conflict they are experiencing over their resources, they did what is out to be done, and now they are enjoying peace. We are not hearing crisis in these countries that we are mentioning, Namibia, South Africa, Mozambique. We are not hearing it. But where we have refused to sit down and work out strategies, work on some of these strategies that were mentioned here, we are having conflicts. Even when there are attempts to do something like this, lack of patriotism, lack of sincerity have destroyed every effort that I've been trying to put in place. So when we come to do something, let's do it well. We should not come and do eye service and then go and then provide lip services and then go. No, we should do something that will benefit the people real good. And level of patriotism and sincerity should be put in place, in check. And then above all, integrity. Because these are certain components that we need to have as a people that manage resources. We must be sincere. We must maintain high level of integrity. We must be transparent and accountable. If we have this, we'll be able to handle certain resources and we leave that place and our names are not tarnished. Our image reputation is intact. Do you understand? But where we refuse to do this thing, what we are only creating is conflict, tension. So those countries, they have moved ahead. They have taken steps and they are moving ahead. Development, stabilization in the economy. They are doing well. When you carry their currencies and compare with Nigerian naira, it will shock you. It will shock you. Do you understand? It will shock you. Carry their currencies and compare with any of those countries that we have talked about here that are experiencing conflict now. It will shock you. That's how bad the situation is. And that's how good the situation is to them that have taken the step and are sincere in dealing with their people. Do you understand? A country where we refuse to be sincere and allow greed and self-aggrandizement to take over us, then we have no place. So far as I'm concerned, the conflict, we are not yet. But Janet, do you know what? The truth of the matter, some people want to benefit right on this conflict to continue to benefit. They feel that if there's no conflict, they cannot benefit. In fact, there are some people, if there's no conflict, they have no job. Yes. Until there's conflict that they can enjoy, they have something to benefit. They have a stream of income when there's conflict. So they want the situation to continue to be bad so that it will be good for them. But how? For how long? And at the end of the day, you are not going anywhere with anything. But if you allow everywhere to be, correct, then everybody will live to enjoy. It's not only you, everybody will enjoy. Because those of them that are enjoying like this on as a result of conflict and they are benefiting from conflict, they themselves doesn't have peace. Do you understand? Some of them, they sleep in their houses with their one eye open. Some of them don't even sleep in their houses. Some of them drive bulletproof cars. Why? Because they feel that they are not safe. So we need to do something. And when doing it, we should be sincere to ourselves. Because at the end of the day, we also suffer from it if we are not sincere. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Joshua, for that beautiful conclusion. Before we come to an end on today's episode, we'll briefly take a few comments from our viewers. And we have here from Mrs. Itse, and she says, the true federalism is very far from Nigeria, from where we are. It is important to make this correction if we have to get it right, that ministers of any field should be someone from the region, should be someone from that region of production. A minister of oil and gas should come from the Niger Delta. The minister of coal should be from Enugu, and so on. This way, I feel they represent better, especially in a democratic system. We'll be taking, thank you, Mrs. for that comment. So we have another comment from Mr. Adamu Lawan, and it says, community should involve in decision making in all kinds, day-by-day activity, even in terms of securities. For example, giving some groups to protect pipeline for people of that region, e.g. Tampolo and his group. Thank you, Mr. Adamu, for that contribution. We also have one from Mr. Malta Daniels, and he says, the interplay between natural resources and conflicts in Nigeria and Africa is complex and multifactorial. Effective governance, equitable distribution of resources, revenues, and addressing environmental and social grievances are crucial in mitigating resource-related conflict. International cooperation and support for strengthening institutions and promoting transparency can also play a significant role in achieving stability in resource-rich region. Thank you, Mr. Malta Daniels, for that. And I totally agree. The international corporations and companies should support in strengthening institutions and promoting transparency. So thank you very much to our viewers. We appreciate your presence. We thank you for taking out time to join us on today's episode of the Peace Clinic, discussing how natural resources cause conflict in Nigeria and in Africa. Thank you, Ambassador Joshua, for joining us today.
Thank you, Janet. It was a pleasure discussing this topic, and we believe that we have learned something, and we believe that we are going to change. When we discuss, and time will come that we will be sending out certain policy proposals, we'll be sending out certain, uh, you know, documentations and research results so that certain concrete actions will be taken so that we will discuss and then take actions. Okay, time is coming as an institution, we'll be writing certain policy suggestions that should be put in place and how they should be implemented. And I think if we sincerely implement them, we'll be able to get solutions so that it will not just be talking alone. Okay, time will come that we'll be writing to government agencies, institutions, certain policy suggestions for them to carry out. And I believe that if it's carried out as we directed and maybe with a little adjustment here and there, I believe that we are on our way to achieving peace in our nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Joshua. It's a pleasure having you once again. So, to our viewers, the Peace Clinic is brought to you by the Institute of Global Peace and Conflict Management. To know more about us, you can do well to visit us, to visit our website on www.igpcm.com.ng or contact us via mail at igpcminfo@gmail.com. You can do that to reach out to us on +234 703 345 8730 or +234 8141 569400. Do also reach out to us. We have courses, membership courses, professional courses that actually train professionals in different areas regarding peace and conflict management. So if you desire to be a professional or a licensed professional, you can in your field related to peace and conflict, you can do well to reach out to us for that. You can also follow us on all our social media handles for updates. We are on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn as Institute of Global Peace and Conflict Management. You can also find us on Instagram, on Twitter, and on TikTok as IGPCM. So once again, we appreciate you for joining us today. We looked at the topic, how natural resources cause conflict in Nigeria and Africa. And we hope to see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. GMT+1. So see you tomorrow and do have a great day. Thank you, Ambassador Joshua, for joining us once again.
Thank you, Janet. Have a great day.